And later Commonwealth just makes sure that does the background checks and make sure you're like a legit citizen of that particular nation and approves the nomination. So the higher priority always go to the university. So all your essays need to be in a way where you're impressing the university. It means most of your the homework you do in terms of research and everything to write your essays, you have to be on the university website. You have to find out everything about your university. You have to make sure the course you're applying to, you know everything about the course, including the professors, modules, and whatever is available online. If in case some universities don't have so much information on the website, I would always advise you to write to the particular department asking for details, and they generally reply. And the best time frame to email them is at least 3 weeks before your scholarship deadline. Okay, coming to the contents of the essays, you basically have 4 development impact essays, 3 career plan essays, and 2 proposed study in UK, and 2 personal statement and voluntary and leadership experience essays. Now, the number of words, which is the word count for each essay, depends on that particular essay. The most important of all these is always the development impact, because if your development impact is very precise and coherent and it is actually focusing on a particular issue, all your other essays are pretty much easier to write. So I always advise the potential applicants to write their development impact essays first and kind of see if they are coherent and connected and well assigned, and then go ahead and write the other essays. Don't generally don't start with the career plan without writing your development impact, because the career plan needs to be connected with whatever issue you are describing in the development impact essays. Okay, so the first development impact essay is them asking how your proposed study relates to the development issues at global, national, and local levels, and also development issues connected to your CSE development themes and wider sector. One thing they don't directly ask you in this particular essay question is how they are connected to the sustainable development goals. And this is an advice I have gotten from every scholar I've spoken to, that though they don't ask you in the question explicitly about the sustainable development goals, it is always important to mention them, so that when a panelist is reading your particular essay, they know that, okay, this person has thought about how the global goals are connected as well as the CSE development themes are connected. So to answer this first thing, a lot of times in the Commonwealth essays, the questions will be asked in parts, part A, part B. For example, how they did in this particular essay question. That doesn't mean that you also write your essay in parts. You shouldn't be doing that. All your essays need to be like a proper essay. They need to be connected. And whatever you're trying to explain, you're trying to explain them throughout your essay. It can be in different parts. It can be an amalgamation of the answers you're trying to answer for both the questions. So the first thing about this essay is you have to select your development issue. Be very precise and clear about what development issue you're choosing. There are when I say precise, this is what I mean. I'll give you an example regarding that. There is a difference between me saying that the education system in India is bad. Well, that is an issue. We all know that the education system in India is needs a lot of development. However, if I have to make it more narrowed down and precise, I would say the teacher training processes under the Department of Education in India need more help. And then I'll give the statistics about how the teachers are not necessarily trained. So focusing that just gives the panelist an understanding that you're not vaguely talking about an issue, but you have a clear-cut idea. So once you have the issue, you're saying that, hey, this is the issue, that teacher training is the issue here. You have to support it with statistics. Why should the panel believe that this is an issue in your country? Remember that the panelists are going to read essays from all over the world, in which, out of which they may not have expertise in all the countries. A person from the UK or a person from the US, whoever is working in that particular university at that point of time, is reading your essay. So they might not know the Indian context. So you have to provide statistics. And these statistics need to be about global, national, and local. Now, one of the most asked question is, the word count is only 200 words. If I'm giving statistics for the global, national, and local, it is kind of eating up my space, and I'm unable to fit all the statistics in the 200 words. So my advice to that is, pick clearly which one, prioritize which statistic is better. If you think that the global and national, I would always say that global and national statistics are important. When it comes to local level, you may not always have the statistics because it depends on the issue you're picking, right? Local statistics, meaning the surveys that have been conducted may not be up to date, so you might not find a data point from the local level. In that case, what you can do is you can give a statistic from the global and national. Like I can say that, according to the United Nations survey, globally this is happening, and United Nations also does a lot of country specific surveys, so they might have country specific data that is related to your particular issue, so you can get from there. Or you can look at other other news channels that are more trustworthy, like BBC, Guardian, which have written articles about your particular issue, and if they're focusing on your country, you can quote them also. But generally, when these kind of news channels quote any statistics, they give the credit. So make sure that when you're also writing the statistic, you give the credit. Just don't solely write the statistic. You have to mention from where you're picking this up. Like according to this particular survey, according to the national data, according to this survey, you have to mention that. For the local thing, you can kind of give your expertise, because if you pick this particular issue, there are high chances that your work experience is kind of connected to that issue. That's one of the reasons you're really connected towards this issue. So it gives a personal touch when you're telling. So I can be like, what, girls' education, I gave a global statistic, national statistic. I would say that in my experience working in this particular village, I have seen so many girls dropping out, and that's why I feel like there is a need. This is the need of the hour. Then mention the sustainable development goals. Go through all the different sustainable development goals. For me, it would be gender equality. If I'm selecting girls' education, it would be gender equality and quality education. So I would say that, and then connect it to the CSE theme. A lot of essays I have reviewed previously, for some reason, everyone forgets to mention the CSE themes. Commonwealth has like 6 themes. If you go on their website, you can actually see them. And out of that, choose the theme under which your issue falls and mention that. If I'm going to solve this particular issue, then Commonwealth's, then it will be connected to Commonwealth's this theme of, let's say, access and inclusion. And it helps me achieve the sustainable development goals of quality education and gender equality. So this is how you kind of write it. And the statistics will already help you convince the panel that the problem does exist in the local, national, and global level. And the last thing you have to say is how your particular course is going to help you to solve that issue. So this also need to be written. It means that you have to mention the name of the particular course you're applying to. Coming to the second development impact part, the second question asks how you intend to apply your new skills and qualification when you return home. So what they are saying is you may wish to reference innovation and application of knowledge at a global, national, local level, and to include intended methodologies and implementation strategies. That's quite wordy. In the most simplest words, they're telling what are the skills and knowledge you're going to get from your course and how are you planning to use them in actions? How are you going to use them once you go back to your country? So this is why it's important for you to understand and mention what skills this particular course is going to give you. Okay, some of the course actually help you in learning certain analyzing softwares like Stata and stuff. So you can definitely Google on your course and see that if any of that is there. Or sometimes your course, the course list, when you go to the page, sometimes they clearly mention the skills. If they don't mention the skills, go to the modules and you have to figure out, if I do this particular module, what kind of skill am I being equipped with? And once you figure that out, then you have to connect those skills to the action steps and how these skills are going to be applied once you're back to the country. An example would be if I'm saying that my particular course, Education, Gender and International Development, it is focusing a lot on teacher education and how teachers will be equipped with gender responsive strategies in the school spaces. This is a skill that I'm learning from my course. And how am I going to apply once I come back to India is I am either going to work with organization and conduct workshops for teachers to teach them how to use gender responsive strategies in their classrooms, or I'm going to work with my own organization, whatever I'm planning to write in my career goals. You can connect with that. So there I'm telling the action step. The action step is not me joining an organization or me working with my organization. The action step is me organizing workshops and training teachers and equipping them with the gender responsive skills. And to do that, this particular skill I'm learning from my course. If the course is not there, the skill won't be there. And if the skill won't be there, I won't be able to apply back in my country. So that's the connection I'm trying to make. So this is how you have to connect a couple of skills and qualifications that you're planning to gain from your course. Next, the development impact third question is, what you expect will change in development terms following your studies. So here they're asking the outcomes you are planning to achieve, the time frame for the implementation, and the beneficiaries. It is a 250-word essay, which means that you have enough space. My first suggestion would be, though they asked you the outcomes, time frame, and beneficiaries in 3 different sections, please don't divide your essay into 3 different sections. A lot of applicants tend to use the first paragraph to write the outcomes, the second paragraph to write the time frame, the third paragraph to write the beneficiaries. I would say that kind of, it's a good structure, but I don't think that structure makes a lot of sense when written in an essay, because it's really hard for the reader to make the connection. Okay, here she's listing out, or here are listing out all the outcomes, and then this person is writing all the time frames, and then this person is writing only beneficiaries. So do the panelists have to match the following? That's quite risky, right? So how to approach this question is, make sure you're mentioning whatever action step you have mentioned in the previous essay. Firstly, this essay needs to be built from the previous essay. You're talking about a lot of action steps in the previous essay. Now you're going to talk about what outcomes, time frame, and beneficiaries it's going to impact. So write very clearly. If I'm saying that I'm going to train teachers and conduct workshops, then what are the outcomes that are going to be from that particular action step? In what time frame am I planning to conduct these workshops, and who are benefiting? Like, so I can say that 3,000 teachers will be benefited. So I'm mentioning the beneficiaries, and I'm planning to do this in a time frame of 1 year. And the outcomes I'm planning to achieve is ensuring that schools have a gender responsive framework, they have meetings, they have certain awareness programs for their students. So these all things are result of the action step I'm taking, that I'm conducting workshops, and because of this, some kind of change is happening in your particular schools, and those are the outcomes I'm kind of figuring out. So this is just one example. Then if you have some other skill, then go with that skill in the next sentence, explaining the outcomes, time frame, and beneficiaries. So it should be like a mix of all these three in the same sentence, or at least in the same paragraph. And make sure your outcomes are tangible, like the panelists are able to understand that, okay, they are going to, if you're saying that I'm going to impact teachers, how many teachers, where are these teachers coming from? A lot of questions are going to come in their head, right? So you have to mention all those things. And the time frames, is it 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, or on your immediate return, how is this going to look like? And who are you going to impact? When you talk about beneficiaries, it's the who, and from what communities or organizations these people are coming, which states these people are coming. You need to be very clear and precise, and the action steps needs to be clearly explained. I'm going to impact these many teachers. How? Workshops? Are you planning to do fellowships, conferences? What are you planning to organize? That action plan needs to be there in this particular question. And the last development impact question is, how will the impact of your work be best measured and evidenced? Please include the details of what indicators you're planning to use. You may wish to detail small and incremental changes as well as more significant goals. That statement there itself is very important, because a lot of time when people talk about development impact measuring, it's always the bigger goals. It doesn't necessarily need to be. It can be the small changes that you're planning to look for when you're narrating your plan. So one thing you can firstly notice that this is a 100-word essay, which means that it's quite short. You need to be very smart with planning your word count and how you're going to write your sentences. The clearer, shorter, and easier to read essays are the best ones. You never need to like use complex language. All my Commonwealth essays, I have written them in the most easiest language possible, because I am someone who believes in clear and easy essays, and that did really become a plus point for me when I was submitting my essays, because whoever gave feedback to me said that it's quite precise, straight to the point. I was not trying to fill up the space or trying to add a lot of extra texture to it. When they are saying how to measure, you can look at the existing indicators, which are the national or global. It can be Human Development Index, GDP. In education sector, it's generally the ASER indicators that we kind of look into every year. So it depends on your particular field. What are the big indicators that are there? Sometimes in some fields, you might not have these big indicators nationally or globally. Then what do? If there are no existing indicators and parameters, then you can make those parameters. You basically have to look at your problem. You have to look at your problem. Okay. You have to dissect the problem and kind of figure out if everything I'm saying right now works well. How am I going to measure? So if I'm saying that all the teachers I'm training are doing well, how am I going to measure? So it can be quantitative, it can be qualitative. I can tell that these many number of teachers are very well aware about gender responsive strategies. They believe in gender equality. Or qualitative can be these schools are doing certain things, like how many schools are actually setting up facilities for girls in their schools, how many schools have a special team that they have to ensure that girls' education is promoted in that particular school. So these are certain parameters that I can use to measure them. So, and you also have to tell how will you measure. If I'm saying, hey, this is how I'll measure, is there going to be a team that you're going to have? Are you going to collaborate with one of the civil servants or government officers to make sure these indicators are measured? Or is there already an existing indicator that is happening in your state that you can use to kind of check if the action steps you took are working or not? That's the first whole part of development impact. The next is the career plans. When it comes to the career plans, the first essay is about objectives during the award. They're quite very clear about it. It's a 250 words. Surprisingly, this is one essay where I have seen a lot of applicants and myself struggle with to fill in the words, because they're asking us to tell what you're planning to do during the award, and there's not a lot you can tell sometimes, because you it's hard to imagine what all things you can do. So the easiest things to go for when you want to answer this question is opportunities that are there in the UK. This can be any different organizations, CNET, or any other different networks that are in the UK, which right now might seem very inaccessible to you. But if you go to the UK and try to get in touch with them, it's much easier. Another thing is the dissertation, all you're planning to get. Try to write that. And the second line, if you see in the question, it says, describe the skills that you expect to gain from this scholarship and your career plans once you return home afterwards. So a smart thing to do is, if you don't have enough words, you can actually use one paragraph to tell everything you want to do during your stay, like the networking and all of that. I would say not to mention about the modules and stuff in this, because you have a different essay for that, and to talk in detail about the modules and professors and all of that in that essay. So you don't need to mention that here. So you can talk about all the extracurriculars you plan to do, any societies in your university. This is a great this is a platform for you to convince the people that, hey, I researched about your university. I know all the societies that are there. I want to join this particular thing. I know certain kind of entrepreneurship competitions happen, or these kind of TED Talks happen in your university, and I want to participate in all of that. So this is your for you to like research about the university and then pull in and say that this is what I want to do. I want to maximize all the opportunities that I have. I want to take them when I'm in the UK studying university. And what are you planning to like conduct a conference or a workshop? Because when you say immediately after your return, it might be like 3 months or 6 months right after your return. There's not a lot you can do after you return, because it's a short amount of time. So in that, you can tell what kind of small action steps you want to take and go in detail about it. And like that is how you answer this particular essay. The next essay is your career plan in 5 years following the award. It has like 250 words. The best thing to do is like dissect these 5 years into 1 year, 3 year, and 5 years, or you can dissect it into, in the next 3 years I want to do this, after it's in other 2 years I want to do this. So try to divide your time, the 5-year timeline, in such a way that you can give a very clear-cut explanation. So here, if you haven't mentioned about the immediate return in the previous essay, then I would advise you to include that in this particular essay, what you're planning to do in the immediate written. But if you have already mentioned that in the previous essay, you don't need to mention it here. You can directly start talking about, okay, in the first year, this is what I'm planning to do. But just don't go about in the first year, I'll do this, second year, I'll do this, third year, I'll do this, fourth year, I'll do this, fifth year, I'll do this. That's too specific for you. A lot of times the panelists will be like, how does this person know that in the first year they will surely achieve this and second year they surely achieve this? So if you have like a buffer time, like in next 3 to 5 years, I'm planning to do this, I want to work with this particular organization or with this particular government body. Initially I want to start working with this particular village, then I want to focus on the district, then the neighboring district. So go into that, and also talk about which all departments you're planning to work in the local, the very local level, then the district level and the state level. Talk about who you'll approach, how you'll approach. Do a lot of name dropping. Here, name dropping is very important because that means that they understand that, okay, this person actually thought a lot about it. They did the research. They know whom to approach, what to do in order to implement their program once they're done with the course. So that's the kind of impression you want to leave for the panelists, whoever is reading your essay. And the long-term career plan, this is a 250 words essay. This can be quite vague because it's 10 years down the line. So you can definitely talk about expanding whatever plan you spoke for the 5 years. Again, in the 5 years one, if you're someone who is talking about your own organization or something, how you're planning to grow it, that you can talk. And in the long-term plan, it might look like, listen, after my organization had a particular growth, I want to collaborate with certain international organization and do this, that, like whatever you want to do. Or if you're someone who don't have a plan of having your own organization, but you're still trying to give the impact by working with a different organization, then talk about how you will work in international organizations. For me, when I spoke about it, I think I kind of explained how in the 5 years I want to work in implementation of certain programs in the state level. And I also made sure that the states I was mentioning are the states in which I worked before, so that they have an idea that I know the ground reality. That's why I'm trying to work there. And when it came to international organizations, I started, I mentioned something about UNJAI, like United Nations has this special wing for girls' education. And I spoke about how I want to work as the policy advisor for that, because it's 10 years down the lane. You can actually aim for anything. If you want to do a PhD, you can write about your PhD, like, what I want to do a PhD, and this is what I want to research about. So mention all of that. This can be a bit vague. It doesn't need to be very, very specific, but make sure you're dropping names and you know what you're aiming for even in 10 years. And it is kind of in line with what you're doing. The next is the proposed study in the UK. Remember when I said, hey, there is a whole essay that is there for you to talk about your course. These are the essays. So the first one is a study outline essay, 125 words. You have to explain your course and modules in the most simplest way possible. Like imagine you're explaining it to your family members. Try to explain it to them in the most simple way. I actually did this with my parents. I sat them down and I translated it into Telugu, which is my mother tongue, because my parents don't know English. And I basically translated and I asked them, did you understand? After they're like, yeah, they nodded their head. And I asked them questions, tell me what you understood. And once I realized that they're able to understand what I'm actually trying to study and what kind of modules I'm trying to do, I realized that, okay, that's the most simple way. A person who doesn't know about my course is able to understand what I'm trying to tell. The whole purpose of this particular essay is people who are on the panel trying to read your essays, they might not be familiar with your course. So if it is your way of telling them, hey, I understand my course and this is how I'm trying to explain you what my course is. That's the whole purpose of this essay. It doesn't, this essay doesn't have like so much importance. It's mostly about how simply you can explain your course. That's pretty much it. The detailed plan of study. This is a very important essay because here you're going to tell everything you want to do during your course, in your course, with your professors, in your department. Okay. So it asks, provide a detailed plan of your proposed study. The selection panel will want to understand why you have selected your proposed course and universities. You should remember that although the selection panel is well informed, they are not specialists in your subjects. Pretty much what I explained. Now, what they want to know, why you have chosen this course and university, and why do you want to take the study? Sorry. Why do you want to study this particular course? And then they want to understand what are you looking for in this course, and how have you chosen the courses relating to your objectives and dissertation topic. Since it's a 300 words, it gives you ample amount of space to write about everything. So always start this essay with the university ranking, where does the university stand, if the course, sometimes QS also has this course rankings. For my course, the university, UCL was #1 in the world. So I definitely made sure I mentioned that so that they know that this is one of the reasons. Like there is already proven data that your university and the course are like the best in the world. Why wouldn't I apply for it, right? Then look at your course, go through all the modules, what modules you want to choose, and who are teaching those modules. What are these professors actually doing? What kind of research did they do? Is any of the research they did related to the issue in the development essay? Like the first essay where you mentioned the issue, right? Is it connected to that? Like, for example, if I'm someone who is looking into it, and throughout my career plan essays, I told about how I want to train teachers, I will look into professors who already have expertise in training teachers about gender responsive, or who remotely, if they didn't have the work experience, did they write papers or research papers regarding that? And then I'll be like, from this professors, this is what I'm planning to learn. I think that this will really help me. Or this professor wrote this particular book and I want to understand, I read the book and I want to understand in depth how this can be, used in my country's context or my locality's context. So that is how you kind of connect. Just simply naming professors is not enough. Try to make sure you're kind of connecting them back to what you want to do in India. And lastly, the dissertation topic. I generally advise, make sure your dissertation topic is very well connected to the issue you're planning to solve. And once, just don't don't simply mention the topic. Go a little deeper. Through this topic, I want to explore these kind of questions. I actually wrote what kind of research questions I wanted to do. And I kid you not, that is the exact dissertation topic I was working on while I was doing my course. And though some of the research questions are exactly, some of them, of course, I had to change with the advice from my supervisors. So these things, you're not just writing for the purpose of writing for the essays. You might actually end up using them during your course. So just be clear about that. And then the last two essays, which is the personal statement, and the other one is the leadership and volunteering. These, I generally tell people that for personal statement, they want to understand a little more about you from a personal way. That doesn't mean that they want to know all your life story. This is very important of drawing that line, because you definitely want to tell them your personal story. All of us have our own different kind of hardships at varying degree, right? It depends on how different your life has been. So do you want to tell your whole life story, or do you want to make sure your life story kind of communicates to the reader why you are personally motivated to solving that particular development issue, right? For me, if it's girls' education, it comes from a very personal space about how girls in my family were not educated. Till my mom's generation, no one was educated. It's only me and my sister who are getting education. And I know the power of education, how important it is and how forward it can take you. And that's one of the reasons why I'm particularly connected to this particular cause. So that doesn't mean that I'm going to tell everything about it. In fact, when I was writing my personal statement, I kind of wrote everything, how my, like, not my mom, but all her sisters were child brides, and how when I was born, none of the family members were happy. In fact, everyone were just sad, and some of them were actually crying that I was not a boy. So I kind of wrote all this story because this was so important for me, because it motivates me. But when I actually took feedback, I was asked not to write the whole story. So I kind of skipped the story about how people were upset when I was born. I didn't feel like that directly connected with what I was trying to tell. So I started with how my mom was not given education, then how difficult it was for me to attain my education, what kind of barriers I had to cross, being one of the first girls in the family to actually study and go to a different state and study, and now planning to be in the social sector, like have been working in the social sector and trying to have an education abroad in one of the prestigious universities. So then that was still my personal struggle, but it was not really going into the bigger personal story that I have. And then I connected it to how this is my background. These are all the things I faced and I pushed through. And now this is one of the reasons why I want to, have higher education. Sorry. So it is up to you. I would always advise you to link it to the development issue you picked. And it is again your call. With, like, you can take feedback from other people. At the end, it is your call about what personal information you want to put in this particular essay and what you want to skip. The last essay is the voluntary and leadership experience. For this, the easiest essay structure is have a tiny introduction, have 2 or 3 paragraphs in which you're going to talk about your volunteer leadership experience, have a conclusion in the paragraph. So after the introduction paragraph, which can be quite tiny, about what are your thoughts about leadership and voluntary, and why you want to be involved in that and all of that. The 3 paragraphs which I said, or the 3 or 2 paragraphs, depending on how many examples you want to give, each paragraph use the STAR approach, which is situation, task, action, and result. And you have to reflect upon the leadership experience and what you have learned from these experiences, because we talk about the situation, task, action, and result after saying that, hey, I have impacted these many people through my work. You just leave it like that. If the word count permits, try to write from this particular experience, this is what I have learned and all of that. And make sure you're writing in separate paragraphs. Fitting all of it in 500 words can be quite tricky. But if you plan properly, like if you write it and you kind of edit and re-edit it, it is definitely possible to fit everything you want to say in that by just changing the type of sentences you have been writing. And if you're someone who has already applied for the Chevening Scholarship and you have written the leadership experience essay in the Chevening Scholarship, then I would say you can definitely use that particular essay. I personally used my Chevening Scholarships, that essay, for this, and it worked out perfectly because they're asking you the exact same thing. What are your leadership experiences, and how you have impacted other people. That's pretty much with all the essays. If you have any questions, you can ask me now. Yeah.
So, hi, Haasini. I have one small question. Can I go ahead?
Yes.
Yeah. Can I add my all जो मैंने लिखा था चेमरिंग ऐसे में वो वाला stuff can I reuse in Commonwealth shared थोड़ा for modification करके, right?
Yes, you can do it because like both the scholarships are connected with the FCDO, but the panelists are completely different. They won't even know that you are reusing your essays. Most of them actually reuse their essays. So you can definitely do that. And if you want to
Okay.
modify it, that is completely
Yes.
fine.
Thank you.
Next is Sheena. Please unmute yourself. And
Yeah, so I have two questions, and thank you so much for an elaborate understanding. It's really, really helpful. Hasni, I wanted to ask one question that in this, do we have to have a admission offer for applying, or can we apply without that? Or
You
in
don't.
case we have one, how is the process?
If you already have one and you want to mention that, you can mention it one of the essays maybe that I already have been accepted, blah blah blah. But you don't need to have any offer letter for this. I think
Okay.
you have to start an application and submit it or something. You have to kind of look at it on the requirements on the shared scholarship website, but you don't need to have a result, because I heard 1 year when I applied, I just created an application, and when you create an application number comes, and that application
Yeah,
number
last year it
needs
happened
to,
with me. Yeah.
yeah, needs to be kept in this particular scholarship. That is how
Okay,
they
so
connect. This scholarship application is coming from this particular admission application.
okay. So, like, if we have an admission, we can just write the application number as well. So we can
Yes.
just use that one. Okay.
Yes.
And also, in the career plan wala question type, in the three questions that they have asked, for somebody who is coming from a different field and is planning to shift into the development area, has worked and volunteered and done some leadership role, but full-fledgedly after the course he or she would want to shift. In that case, the 10-year program can be 10-year question can be easier, but for the first few years, what will be your suggestion for somebody who is coming from a different industry? Maybe for somebody who's moving from journalism to development or policy area. Yeah.
Actually, that shouldn't be an issue when you're writing the career plan, because in the career plan, I don't think anywhere you talk about what you have done previously. You only talk about what you're planning to do after the course. So
Okay.
the best way to convince the panel that, hey, I'll be able to do this is, since I'll be able to do the course, I know I have this knowledge and skill set that are coming from the course. It means that I'm ready to change my field. So if you're someone who
Right.
is shifting to policy, then you don't even need to mention that, hey, I'm shifting. But you can actually use it for your advantage by saying that, since I already have expertise in journalism, I want to use that skill set and the skill set I'm getting from my course to do this particular thing after the course. So you can actually use it as an advantage rather than like wondering whether it will be a disadvantage or not.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, can I go ahead?
yes, Samara.
Yes. Okay, so I have more like a general question. So for Shivning, what happened was that we get three options in terms of the universities, but here since we just get one option, I wanted to understand, what if we get through the scholarship but not through the university? Would we get a chance to change the university?
No, you won't be, because for shared scholarship, the university generally has particular courses for which the scholarship are assigned. So if like the course I have been applying, I think it has been allocated 2 scholarships, I guess. So anyone who gets these two, like who gets nominated for these 2 scholarships, they need to have the admission letter. And in my experience, I have never heard of anyone who got nominated for the scholarship and did not get the admission, because it's harder to get nominated. Like the percentage is like, it's really hard. Like 3-4% if you see the number of applications that flow in for the scholarship. And for university admission, like UCL has like a, depending on the course, for my course it has like a 60% acceptance rate. So it's always easier to get the admission. It's harder to get the scholarship. So if you're someone who got the scholarship, I'm pretty sure the university will try their level best to accommodate and make sure that you get the admission, unless you do the mistake of not submitting the application, or you haven't done. Some universities are very particular about their English requirements. Unless you mess up with that, I don't think in
Okay,
any
okay,
other
that
case
makes
there will
sense.
be an
Thank
issue.
you.
Hello.
Hello.
Um,
Yeah.
am I on?
Yes, I can hear.
Yeah, Haasini, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to know if can we apply for the scholarship first and then do the admission? Like, can we do this application to the university after we apply for the scholarship?
I don't see, it depends on scholarship. Sometimes these can be quite tricky because, as I said, the panel comes from the university. Though there are certain instructions that are given on the Commonwealth's website, it is always advisable to go to the university's website and check for Commonwealth shared scholarship of that particular university and what all guidelines they have. I have seen a couple of universities saying that your application, your admission application needs to be submitted before you submit your scholarship application. And some universities don't have that requirement. So I would say, especially go to the particular university and check if they have it in their requirements, and according to that, apply. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes. Thank you, Haasini.
Where do I find that scholarship things on website?
What?
The scholarship, how do I find the scholarships in universities' websites?
You just have to type Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, that particular university. If you type on Google Commonwealth Shared Scholarship UCL, it will take you to the page.
Okay, yes.
And also sometimes it's always advisable to go to the university website for this reason. Sometimes they also have preferences. Some universities write on their university website that for this scholarship, we want to consider Bangladeshi nationals, or we want to consider Indian nationals. So if you find any such universities which are very biased towards taking Indian nationals for whatever internal reasons they have, then it is an added advantage.
Hi, Haasini. This is Hemant from Pakistan. So I have more or less future plans like you, but the journey is quite different. Firstly, it was an insightful session, and my question is that I'm opting for the UCL for the same program, but the hurdle is what I'm facing is the application fee. I tried writing to the university and submitted an inquiry form, but I did not receive any kind of positive response. So as you're from UCL, you might know how to navigate this. So I intend to apply UCL.
Okay.
And
So if the admissions committee is not responding to you, and on an urgent basis you want to get information from UCL, they have a postgraduate admissions helpline. But the only issue with that is you have to recharge your phone with certain amount so that an international call can be made, because international charges get charged for that particular call. But that's faster. You can talk to the admission committee and quickly kind of understand what's the status of your inquiry. That's the fastest way to reach UCL. I did that when like not during the application process, but later on I had some issue with my immigration and CAS thing, and I immediately needed an information from them, and they were not replying to my emails, and that's when I called them up and they did respond. So you can do that. But another thing I would tell is it's really hard to get an application fee waiver from UCL. at least from a lot of people who applied, I rarely met anyone who got an application fee waiver. For some reason, these universities are not so happy to give it. However, you can do what I did when I was applying for the Commonwealth Shared, because you can submit multiple scholarship applications and multiple admission applications. Check for universities that don't have application fee. There are universities in the UK that are in the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship course list for the education thing or the gender thing. They don't take application fee. Sometimes if you request them, they don't even require IELTS. So these are the universities that are not in the top list, but still giving the scholarship. As a plan B and C, apply for these universities also, because if you're investing so much time into writing the scholarship essays, it is always advisable to apply to multiple courses and multiple universities to increase your chances. Because I have seen people who have been waitlisted in 3 or 4 universities, but have been nominated in 1 university. So that is the difference that makes. So that's something you can do.
Okay. Secondly, you mentioned about the statistics for the first essay. So what if the estates are not up to date?
The global and national statistics, you can write the latest ones. Like a 2018 study mentioned this, or according to the 2021 study mentioned this, that is fine. But if the statistics is so old that it's like 2010 or 2008, then it is not useful. But generally, if you're looking for a global or national one, the most recent one should be fine. And if it is in the last 3 to 5 years, it should be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Haasini. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes,
So I
ma'am.
have few questions, and before that, I really thank you for explaining in detail about the procedure. I was so confused how to answer these questions in detail, but it was quite informative. So first thing is, if I want to choose some other course in the university, is it possible if I fill an application to the different course which is not mentioned in the Commonwealth list? But if we submit an application here, is that possible in other way?
So if you're saying that I'll give you an example. In UCL, the education department itself has like multiple courses, right? But Commonwealth Shared applies to only the education, gender, and international development course. It doesn't apply to any other different course that is there in this department. So if you're someone who applied for education policy course, got through it, and then you applied for this, and you're trying to ask them to give the scholarship, they won't give that, because this particular scholarship is assigned to only this course. So that is how it works. They won't change it.
Okay. And another question is, it was mentioned that we have to write 10 prizes and 10 publications. So I am confused. I am a person, I just began to write my publications. So I don't have 10 publications, even though I have 10 prizes, which of course not in this field. So how should we write this thing?
Okay, this is something that actually scared me also when I was applying for my scholarship. I don't have any publications. I don't have any legit prizes, like big awards. So what I did was a couple of like mentions that I was mentioned in during my past work or my undergrad. That is what I mentioned. They were not that big, but still, whatever I could put, I put into my application. And for publication, since I didn't have any publications, I wrote certain articles on Youth Ke Awaaz during that time because of some internship. So I basically said that those are the only published stuff. And how you kind of show it to them also matters. So in one of my essays, I actually wrote about how Youth Ke Awaaz has like a lot of following. In India, it's not the big publishing company. Youth Ke Awaaz, I wouldn't really care if I'm hiring someone and someone has a lot of publications on it. But how I represent that in my application matters. So in one of the essays, I mentioned about the viewership and on what topics I have written, and I attached those as my publications, and that was fine. And I have also, like, it is quite important. It depends on how strong your essays are. If your essays are really strong, and I don't think they will care that much even if you don't have the publication or anything. I have also made a report about something which was not published on any website, but it was available online. So I just sent the drive link for it. So you can understand desperate times. If you don't have anything, you try to put in everything you have. That is what I personally did. Yeah.
One thing, does this publication have a language limitation or language criteria?
I think they asked for English publications, but if you're someone who has other stuff, attach it. It's okay.
Okay. So we are going to last two questions. If anyone have a question, please unmute yourself and ask directly.
Hi, Haasini. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So since you are from gender background, I had a specific question regarding that. So I also I have experience related to education, and I also like the course in UCL. But when we are doing multiple applications, there are very few courses that have education and gender together, right? So when we are applying for different courses, for example, gender and international development, how do we have to change our development impact essay also?
Yeah, I would say yes. If you're writing, if you're kind of using the same essays for a gender and international development, because in that course, you have to first go to the course list and kind of check if they have any education module in that, because a lot of gender modules don't have education. LSE has a gender course, but their gender course doesn't have anything related, any module related to education. So in that case, using the same essays won't give you the same advantage. They'll clearly know that, oh, she doesn't know what she's writing here, because our course doesn't have any education aspect on it, and she thinks that applying to this is going to help her. So in that case, you have to kind of change your answers, like essays in such a way that it caters to the modules they have, saying that, hey, since you have these modules, that's why I'm applying, and if I study those modules, these are the skills that are going to be there. But if you're someone who is not picky about having the title gender in the course, then there are certain education courses that are there, that are on this shared scholarship website. You can go to each of those like the course page and kind of see if any of them have any gender module. Because what happens in UCL is also that they have only one module on the gender and education, which is compulsory under the course. And the rest of them, whether they're related to gender or not, they don't really care. So it doesn't really make a lot of difference. It's just that it's because you do that course, which is a compulsory course, that's why the word gender is on the course. So you can look at any other course that has education in it, and under its module, if any of the modules is focusing on education and gender, you can definitely apply to that particular university, saying that this module is very important. The professor who is teaching that module, they're going to help me get expertise in this particular thing, and that's why I want to do this stuff after I return back to my country. So in that context, your essays will work.
Okay, thank you so much. That helps. Yes.
Okay. So thank you so much, Haasini, for sharing your experience and your expertise with us. Thank you so much, and thank you all of you to joining this session. And all the best to all of you to write your essays. If you have any problem, if you have any issues with your essays, please feel to reach out us. Write a mail to eklavyagsp@gmail.com or any social media handle of Eklavya India Foundation. Thank you once again, Haasini. Thank you so much, and thank you all of you, and bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. The best.
Thank you, Haasini. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.